Lori here. I'm back today to do my February TBR. I actually had a lot of success last month with reading what I actually put on my TBR. The tail end of the month, I kind of fell off, and I always put way more books on my TBR than I'm going to read. So I actually did something a little bit different this month. I always say in the month of February, I'm going to read mostly romance books, and I always fail at it. So I'm actually just putting the majority of the books on my TBR for February are romance books or like contemporary books. I have three exceptions, which I'm going to talk about first because they were books that I really did want to get to last month and I just never got around to it. So these are probably not going to be the books I'm going to read first, but they are going to be on my TBR. But I want to talk about them first. Seven Deadly Shadows by Courtney Alameda and Valerie M. Mattini was on my TBR. This is a retelling of Seven Samurais, and I think it's about a young girl who has to wind up stopping the end of the world by teaming up with demons. I got this at New York City Comic Con. This cover is just so pretty, so I really do want to read it. I don't know if I'm going to get to read it this month, but I am going to toss it on my TBR because I did have it on my TBR last month and was interested in it. Another book that was on my TBR last month was Chosen by Kirsten White, which is now out, but this is the sequel to Slayer. I really like Slayer. I know there was some mixed thoughts about it, but I really liked it, so I do want to definitely read this book as well. I remember that I really like Slayer, so I really am excited to see where the book series goes. And in going with my consistent reread of the Keeper of the Lost Cities series, I do need to read Nightfall. Now, this book is 776 pages. So, I am definitely going to prioritize my contemporary books that you'll see in a couple of minutes, but I would like to tackle this at some point, hopefully soon. Also, the books that were chosen for the Time Warp YA Book Club was the second book in the Illuminate Files, which is Gemina by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. That is by far my favorite book in the series. I do have the audiobook, and I will be listening to it. And also Tell Me Three Things by Julie Buxton, which I'm going to get in my next clip so I can show you guys the cover. So as I said in the previous clip, I am going to read Tell Me Three Things by Julie Buxton. I don't know much about this book, but I know it's about this girl named Jessie. She winds up moving to this new town, and she's kind of a little bit hesitant, I think. She doesn't really know what to expect, but she gets a message from someone that's saying that they will try to help her in this new school. And she kind of takes that relationship and I think become a romance, I think. I love books about a communication with someone that you don't necessarily know who it is. I kind of like that. I really liked I Think I Like You by Casey West. I just read another book, What I Like About You. I just like that trope. I don't know why. I really enjoyed it in This Is What Happy Looks Like. So I'm excited to dive into this read. I really enjoyed her other book, What to Say Next, so I really hope that I wind up liking this one as well. This is a series of books that I have purchased or bought over the last couple of months that I just want to focus on. And most of them have romance in the topic or theme. So another book I want to focus on is The Potion Diaries Going Viral by Amy Alward. This is the last book that is currently out in this series. And I know this one has to do with a girl named Amelia. This is Sam. It's about Sam. She's an alchemist, and she's best friends with the princess. And I think she has to go on an adventure to save the kingdom with her powers, I think. And I really love the first two books in the series. This is definitely a fantasy light series. But if I'm remembering correctly, there's an illness that was revealed at the end of the book. And she is the only person that can find the cure. So I really hope that I like this. There was eventually supposed to be a fourth book. I don't know if that's going to happen. But I really do like this series. So I really hope that I enjoyed this book as well. Another book that I wound up getting for Christmas from my Secret Santa was The Bookworm Crush. And this is about a girl named Amy McIntyre who has won a chance to interview her favorite author, but she has no confidence. So she winds up getting a competition coach to help her with her public speaking. And it's a boy, and I think he kind of is trying to break her out of her shell, and maybe some romance happens. But yeah, I think I'm gonna like this book. I'm not the most confident person in real life, and I love books about shy characters, so hope that I like it. Another book that I added to this TBR was I Believe in a Thing Called Love by Maureen Gu. This is the last Maureen Gu book that I have not read. I loved her book that came out last year. This is about a girl who I think she's like obsessed with like K-dramas. And I think she just I think she winds up trying to turn her life into a K-drama, I think. This cover is super pretty too. So I don't know much about it, but I am hopeful that I will like it. And this is kind of a departure for me. I rarely ever read new adult books, like ever, but this one has had like so many like people chat about it. So it basically is about what happens when the America's first son falls in love with the Prince of Wales. I think that that's just a really, really cool like tagline. I heard that it's adorable and it's so sweet and it's definitely on my TBR. So I figured I'd add it to the perfect month, which is February. I just hope that I enjoy it. So it's definitely going to be on my TBR and I would love to get to it. The last physical book that is, well, the last book that I like that's already out that is on this TBR is A Match Made in Medity by Nahaja Ban. I cannot pronounce that name, but I think this is about a girl named Simi who she comes from a long line of matchmakers. That's like what her family does. And I think she winds up creating her own matchmaking app, I think. That's all that I know. But I remember I really, really wanted this book at BookCon last year and I didn't wind up getting it. So I saw a physical copy. I wound up buying it and said, I will save it for February. So this is another contemporary book that I really hope that I like and get to this month. Now, here's the part of the video that is a little bit teasy because some of these books are not out yet. Some of these books I got at ALA. Some of these books I got at New York City Comic Con. Some of these books I got at BEA. So the ones I got at ALA, most of them don't come out yet. The ones I got at New York City Comic Con, most are coming out. And the few that I got at BEA are already out. So let's just dive into it because there's quite a few. The first book that I am dying to read this month is A Heart So Fierce and Broken, which is the sequel to A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I really, really loved that book last year. I think I read it, at this point, I think I read it in the end of 2018. So I read it quite a while ago. But I remember really enjoying it. So I really hope that I get to dive in and we get to, I think Gray, I think if I'm wrong, Gray has a point of view in this. I don't know much else about it. I just know that Gray's going to be a point of view character, so I'm really curious to see what happens to the characters that I love. Maybe we'll see what happens with Gray, so I'm really excited about that and hope that I get to read this book this month. Another contemporary that I wound up adding with this was Throw Like a Girl by Sarah Henning. This is and I'm just going to read you guys like the quote. It's a Friday Night Lights meets Morgan Matsson's The Unexpected Everything in this swoon-worthy contemporary debut where romance meets underdog sports story. And it follows this girl named Liv Rossi whose one ill-advised punch gets her kicked out of the most important game of the year for her as a softball star. She gets kicked out of her private school. And she winds up having to transfer to the local public school. Enter Gray, who's a star quarterback with perfect hair and even more perfect plan. If Liv joins the football team as his temporary replacement, he'll make sure she gets a spot on the softball team in the spring, but it will take a lot of the new school to accept their former enemy as one of their own. Behind the charming smile, Gray may not be as perfect after all. That sounds really interesting. I don't read a lot of sport romances. I read quite a few when I was reading the Katie McGarry series because they were all about sports, but I love books with a girl in the forefront. I read Catching Jordan, which was another sports theme romance with a girl as a quarterback that I wound up really liking. And I love Sarah Henning's writing a lot. So hopefully I get to read this book this month. This one is a book that I didn't wind up, I actually wound up getting this at New York City Comic Con, but it just sounds like a perfect book for like the cold weather. And it basically set in Colorado. There is a craggy mountain surrounded by thick bog that lies the inn at Havenfall. It is the center of everything, where all starts, where all connects, where the doorways to many ancient worlds, each with their own magic, join together. Where within the walls of the inn lies sanctuary and peace, a neutral zone. Its doors are open for all who abide its rules if you seek refuge. Havenfall charms will provide protection, but if you carry ill intentions, you'll never find your way there. At Havenfall, anything is possible. Until now, someone has broken the inn's rules. Dangerous dark forces threaten Havenfall, and its shocking secrets, which one girl will do anything to protect. So this is definitely more of a fantasy book, but I think if I'm remembering correctly, there is elements of like a romance in it. So I really hope that I like it. This I got from Bloomsbury at Comic-Con because she was actually there signing. And they were dropping this at ALA, and I actually wound up waiting online, but got it for a friend of mine. But it is signed to me. I really did like Sarah Holland's Everless. I didn't love Evermore, but I'm hopeful that this book will be more up my alley. Now let's dive into the books that I got from ALA. I have a ton of contemporaries on my shelves, but these are the ones that I just kind of like piqued my interest and I wound up adding. The first book is Verona Comics by Jennifer Dugan. This is the author of Hot Dog Girl. I remember I liked Hot Dog Girl, but I don't think I loved it. But this one sounds perfect. It's basically about this girl named Jubilee and this guy named Ridley. You know, they're both involved in the publishing industry. Jubilee's stepmom runs an indie comic book store, and Ridley parents own the biggest comic book chain in the country, and they wind up having like a random meeting at a convention, and they realize that their relationship is kind of like a Romeo and Juliet twist on it. I read Comics Will Break Your Heart by a different author, Faith Erin Hicks, and I really like that. I love the line, they're falling for the competition. I really hope that I like this. I love books about like fandom, and I really hope that I enjoy it. But this cover is really, really pretty. And I wound up getting this from Penguin, and it comes out April 2020. So another book that I wound up picking up at from HMH was By the Book, a novel of pros and cons by Amanda Sellett. And this is a book where she prepares for high school like it's like a classic English review class. Her level of literature ever inspired her to imagine herself as the heroine of a 19th century novel, not the sort that would make a poor literature and end up dying of consumption while still in tears, but a notion of quick wit. When some new friends see danger in her falling for the same tricks employed since the days of Austin Solzai, Mary swoops in to create the scoundrel survival guide, using archetypes of literature debonair bad boys to signal red flags. But despite her best efforts, she soon finds herself unable to listen to her own good advice and falling for a supposed cad, the same one she warned her friends away from. Without a convenient rein somewhere to flee to, Mary's forced to admit that real life doesn't follow the same rules as fictions. If she wants a happy ending, she's going to have to write it herself. This sounds like another book where a girl tries to take her love of romance books and kind of turn it into a survival guide, and it goes horribly wrong. But I love books like that. So this book does come out in May from HMH, but I really hope that I get to read it early. It just sounds perfect. I also wound up picking up a copy of Meet Me at Midnight by Jessica Pennington. I did actually have an e-arc of this, but I started on the table and my Bookstagram photos demanded a physical copy. But this is another romance about Sydney and Asher. They have a long competition between themselves, which is basically like a prank war. But when their prank war leads to some unexpected complications, they have to team up to save the day. I think. I really like this cover. I really like Jessica Pennington's writing, and I hope that I like this one as well. The next book that I wound up getting that just struck me as very, very hot Valentine's Day themed was 4 Days of You and Me by Miranda Kalemi, and this book looks at 4 May forts over the course of two people's relationships, Lulu and Alex. And it says, through makeups, breakups, datings, and other people, each year's clash brings the pair back together and forces them to confront their undriable connections. From the Science Museum to an amusement park, from New York City to London, Lulu learns one thing for sure: love is the biggest trip of all. This reminds me a little bit of what's her name? Casey West book that I read last year. Because it's not like a sequential novel. You kind of visit them every like year, but for that book you visit them every like season. But I'm really excited. I think that this is a really, really cool concept, and I'm really excited. I read one book by Miranda Kalemi in the past and really liked it, so I hope that this book has equal amounts of love. Also from ALA, I wound up picking up You Say It First by Katie Cotugno. I've read one book by Katie Cotugno that I liked but didn't love. But this one is just sounded interesting, so that's why I went up picking up. Meg has her entire life planned perfectly. There's a supportive boyfriend, best friend, all good things. But Colby, however, is stuck in a rut from his family tragedy, but that doesn't mean he has time for some privileged rich girl preaching to him about the political process over the phone. A disastrous first phone call winds up into a series of candid, sometimes heated, always surprising conversations that lead to a long-distance friendship and slowly something more. Across state lines and phone lines, Meg and Colby from one length of connection, but in the end, are they too different to make it work? This book does deal with some political undertones, which, guys, we're in 2020 and it's gonna about to get real political in our lives. So I like books that kind of take it and use it in a contemporary fashion. I really hope that I like it. And if I like this, I might actually read the other books that I have that are on my TBR. And the last book that I'm going to chat about in this video is Of Curses and Kisses by Sanaya Manan. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling set at a boarding school. I am unsure if this book has magical components or not, but when I read it, I'll be sure to find out. But those are all the books that are on my contemporary themed February TBR. I am really excited to dive into these reads. Let me know in the comments what are some books that are on your TBR. Are you doing a massive contemporary read, or are you going to diversify your reading a little bit more than I do? I'm really excited to see what I do wind up reading, and I'm really excited to see what you wind up reading, and I'll talk to you guys at the end of February for another reading wrap-up. This month is a little bit shorter, so I don't know what I'm actually going to be able to get read, but I will hope it's a lot of books. Talk to you guys later. Bye.